Is God in everything? I mean, religiosity will teach you to have a certain level of fatalism. And what I mean by that is that you can get very relaxed with all the variables that are telling you that your future is not going to look good if you tolerate and you allow certain things to be in your life. And it becomes a little more complex within your brains when you start to tell yourself, all because other people who are parroting the same language, that God is in everything, God is in control, God will take care of it, God will do this and God will do that, and God already foresaw, so therefore God will get you through it, or God may get you out of it. Let me tell you something. God overlooks everything, but he looks upon what is his, and he looks away. And actually, I will say the things that are going to cost you are usually away from God. They're not the ways of God. And your lesson is going to come in waves, and it's going to leave you bewildered. And in the Bible, I mean, in religion, it teaches you, oh, it's being in the wilderness. And somewhat God brought you there. Now, there are times that God will orchestrate certain things in our lives for our growth, for our expansion, because we can be so limited in how we see stuff. But he will never do it, okay? He will never do it by introducing you to temptation to the point that it literally cripples years away from you, and even being able to make wise decisions in your life. I think God has a place in his creation in regards to where he belongs. Jesus says that wherever I am, there my servant will be also. And you can miss when people will say, oh, a person missed God. You can miss God so much because he was the one telling you to go here and you went there. The there will teach you when it brings you back to here, and you will begin to hear with your ears what God was saying to you all along, because you will recollect when it was all right. Something was very right inside of you that would have kept you away from evil. Something was so right going on inside of you that was God's instruction saying, be careful, don't touch, don't go there, be aware. Jesus said something, and he said he said this, he just made a comment, and he made his disciples, and he made it, I think he might have made to other people around him, but he said, beware of men. And he's not talking about men as in men and not women. He's talking about mankind in general. He says, beware. And when you make certain choices in your life to bring yourself to a higher degree, God does not expect you, nor is he in it in any way, shape, or form to take you back to kindergarten. The same way we learn our growing up in life from kindergarten to grade school to high school to college and so on and so forth. These things are applicable to our very life and our very soul in how we're traveling. Not everyone is on the same level. Some people are not willing whatsoever to go higher. They just aren't. They stay in the place where they're more comfortable with and where it does not involve them to grow. See, growing up teaches you maturity. And to the mature takes and has to take responsibility. We're going. Responsibility is very much the rudder of their ship through the sea of life. And when you take full responsibility for your life and you are allowing and giving way to the good ways of God, I will say God will have an active part in your life. Should you stray, He will actively bring you back by the correction of responsibility. God does not ordain everything. He did not ordain the devil to fall. He did not have some greater plan or purpose that evil was going to take over some people and not others. He did not have no great plan that nations were going to reject him and fall into such darkness. They chose that. They made their choices. They made their choices along the small and the big and the medium things that went on in the history of their culture, of their nations. And with evil comes much trouble and comes much correction. Nations would much rather, and people would much rather. We live in a time in history too, where people would much rather coddle the pain that they went through after the fact of correction, didn't give heed to the correction in that way they don't have to go through it again. I speak from experience when I say, don't run amok saying to yourself, oh, well, God has a plan. Oh, God will do this. Oh, God is going to get me out of here. It may take a long time because you may very well have to grow back into the person you were before you entered into the bad situation. And we're talking years taken away from your life of a whole lot of assumptions about God. When God was telling you, don't assume, pay attention. So I trust my word of somewhat encouraging, and for any kind of theological aspects that you would want to look at how you see God. Notice one thing. If the kind of fruit you're bearing in your life, and you will know one of the greatest fruits you will have in your life is self-introspection. When that fruit is not there and you're very comfy, cozy, when you know you're all wrong and you're not happy and you're not at peace and things just don't seem to be right, something just is not right inside of you. Pay attention to the introspection, because all of the signs is telling you that something went very wrong, whether you did it or whether external forces played a role by influences, by family, by even moving to a city you should never have gone to, by going into a career you should never step into. Get to know you and get to know you before your God and get to know what makes you really tick. Because when you understand, you can always wind the clock and it will start ticking again. You lose time and you lose the stall of the clock when it stops. When you're not paying attention to what's ticking inside of you. Introspection is everything. And I believe that that's where God resides. Have a good day. And for anything else that you may think, there are so many variables involved as to what makes God and what prevents God in situations and circumstances, in nations, in so many things that go on in this thing we call life. So you all have a good day and do like and do subscribe. Thank you.